Alright, back again, Luke here. And today, as you can see in front of you, I have another project that I'm planning on working on. This is a joystick that was given to me a couple of years ago, well, maybe even longer than that. And it was something that was in some rough shape. The owner was trying to do some mods on it, do some modifications, put a light in over here, and was doing some rewiring. I can't remember what they said they were going to use this for. But they were doing some modifications on it, and then they gave up and said, oh, okay, you know, if you want it, I'll send it over. So I wound up getting this one, and I haven't touched it. You know, I didn't really use it. I couldn't find any need for it right away. But as of recently, I've started to go back and repair some of my stuff. As you can see here, I have a rotary controller, and this rotary controller is going to be used for my SNK boards. Now, the thing about the rotary controller is that it's a little bit too deep to fit in some of the other control panels that I have, as well as the fact that it has a rotary dial on it, so it needs a separate cable to run out aside from just the regular up, down, left, and right. So I figured this might be a good thing to challenge or see if I could get to work with that joystick. Now this one too, the depth on this is way too shallow, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create maybe a bit of a border around the bottom here just so I can make it a little bit taller so that joystick will fit in there. As you can see, some more of the remnants of what was done before. But just figured I could do a little bit of a before and after with this controller and let you guys see how it comes along. And hopefully by getting all this stuff together and extending the parts that I need, I'll be able to get this working as a rotary controller for my SNK games. Now there are a few games that I do own that use the rotary controls. Most of those being, for example, what is it? My Guerrilla War, that's one. Another one is Time Soldiers that I haven't been able to play because I haven't had the controller wired up. That's another one. The Ikari Warriors, those ones are another one that need the rotary sticks. So it'll be kind of good, I think, for this, since it's already, you know, pretty much a little bit mangled up here. We'll make it a little bit more useful, and hopefully the final product will be pretty cool. So we're not going to need all these buttons here anyway. I think for the most part we'll just need two, because most of the controls for the SNK, older SNK boards, they only had like shoot and like jump or something to that extent. Like sometimes they didn't even have that. They had like shoot and bombs. So, but we'll get on that, and I'll see you guys here in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off these back pieces that we don't need. Obviously, we're going to remove a lot of these buttons because we don't need those. Take out the joystick, and we're going to find a way to mount the new joystick in there and see how much clearance we need from the top of the board here, the top part of the panel to the bottom part of the board, and then get on that. So I'm going to start removing some of these components that I don't need. Might leave on these two start buttons, make these as the coin in, and maybe since this one's already over here, maybe that'll be the start, or the coin in and the start. I'm not sure. But we'll play around with this and be back in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got the joystick out as well as the buttons, and on the back side you can see the remnants of that. Now there's this plastic casing here, and what that was used to do is keep this joystick in place. And unfortunately, because of the way this thing is laid out, it won't allow for this new joystick, our rotary one, to fit in there quite easily. So what I'm going to have to do is rip around this section here, probably widen this out a bit more, and then we're going to put some screws in from the top. That's the only way to keep this thing in place. I'm also going to take the front cover art off of this one as well, as it won't be Street Fighter 2 any longer. So next we'll get on stripping this one down and then trying to widen out this area here so we can put in the new joystick. And then hopefully that'll give us a little bit more of an idea on where we have to go as far as thickness goes on the sides here to make up for this enlarged bottom. But I'll get on that, and I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got the top layer ripped off. There's a lot of masking tape that's left on here, and some remnants of just particles. But I needed to remove this in order to be able to get access to the back here. And with the back panel, what I had to do is kind of chisel away some of this. I'll probably have to file it down and clean it up a little bit more, but because of the fact that the new controller, the size of the new controller is larger than the old controller, I had to take away some of this wall here to allow it to slide into position, and then once we get it into place, and we'll drill out the holes here on the sides and then get it all fixed in there. But as of right now, that's where we're at. So what I'm going to do next is try and get this a little bit more squared up. Put it in place and try and drill out the holes for this so we can get on that and get the joystick put in. So I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, what I've done is I've just tried to pre-mount the joystick, drill a few holes here to keep that in place. And one thing I realized is that for games like The Rescue or Ikari Warriors 3, I'm going to need 3 buttons. So I had to put in a 3rd button there and try and test that out. So far I've got everything wired up. This will be the coin in button, and this is the start button over here. The rotary joystick, that's wired up. The 3 buttons here are wired up, and I'm going to have to do a bit more work here. This is just temporary, just to make sure everything's working all right and I'm able to test it. But so far it seems to be working out okay. I'll get on the top here and I'll try and see if I can get some laminate or something to cover up this top part so that the holes here, the ones that aren't being used, will be kind of flush, and the only thing that'll be poking out here will be these 3 buttons and the joystick with probably the ends of the screws here. So I'm going to get on that, try and remove this. I'll have to desolder the buttons here and then go ahead and give that a shot, but I'll get on that and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got a piece of vinyl. This is a vinyl sheet, and I've got this thing laid down here. What I'm going to do is kind of trace around it and cut out the outside of this. This is a bit thick here, as you can kind of hear on the side there. And then just we'll punch out the holes that we do need, and then for the other ones that we don't need, maybe I'll put something over the back here to make it a little bit more solid. But that's the next step, is to get on that and then try and get that everything squared away. So I'll get that cut out and I'll see you guys in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, this is what the panel looks like with the cutout, and all of the holes are still sealed in the back here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to drill out these holes for the joystick, screws, and then the 3 holes that I'm going to use for my buttons, and that should make this top part look a lot smoother. Well, it does have some divots and stuff in it, but it should make it a lot better. So I'm going to get on that, drill some holes out, and I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got the mat down on the top, and I've got the joystick screwed in here with the 3 buttons punched out, so those are all ready to go. The next thing that's going to be probably one of the most challenging parts is going to be to try to make the bottom a little bit deeper. Now you'll notice this thing here, it's kind of sitting on a bit of an angle, and that is because the bottom part here for the switch sticks out much further than the bottom of the board here. So what I'm going to have to do is maybe build a wall of like metal or something just to make up for that distance, probably about, I don't know, 3 inches or so. And that should be enough to clear this bottom part here, so when I do use the joystick, it doesn't hit the bottom part. I'll also have to try and figure out a way here to patch the bottom of this panel, as this was something that was cut out before and it was cut away in the aluminum. So I'll patch that up and try and find a way to build a wall around this, and hopefully be able to get this thing to sit up probably about this high here. So a little bit further from that, but so far I'm pretty pleased with the way it's turned out. These buttons here, unfortunately, you know, just with the way the buttons were drilled for this, these two are quite close together. This one's a little bit further away, but not such a big deal. Just using what parts I have here to try and make something that I can use for my other game boards. So we'll get on that and I'll see what I can do as far as making a wall around here and getting this thing almost put back together. So I'll catch you guys in a little bit. Alright, so I just got back from the hardware store and I was trying to see if I could find some screws that were a little bit longer than this. I needed them to be probably about double this size, but I couldn't find any that were long enough to fit for the bottom of the control panel. But I did find these. These are a little bit longer. They should be about the right diameter here. So I'm going to give these a shot. And I couldn't find all the parts that I was really looking for, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to compensate here with some other stuff. I found some of these kind of spacers, which I'm going to put 2 of these around the screws here to kind of stabilize that, and I'll just make like 6 posts around the outside and have the bottom attached through that, and then probably just put a strip of something like a strip of plastic or so around the outside just to cover it. So it'll be separated by the spacers and the screws here, but the middle part will just be like a cover. So I did get some 3M tape there, and we'll see if we're going to use it or not. I might wind up using something else, but for the most part here, we're going to try and see if I can extend the bottom part of this metal here on the joystick, and then go from there. So I'm going to get on that, and I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so as you can see here, these are the posts that are in place now, and I wish they were just a little bit longer. In the bottom here, you can see that the clearance for the joystick here is quite small here. It does clear it. On the corners or the diagonals, it touches just a little bit, but that's only in the far extreme parts of that, like in the far diagonals there. But otherwise, going forward and backward, it seems to be okay. So that's about as close as I'm going to get it here. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a gap in between. It's just a very, very slight gap. You can see how it's even on an angle there. But yeah, this is where we're at. We have the posts all here, so this thing's kind of raised up a bit more. And then what I'll do is I'll try and get some stripping. Maybe I'll use the same stripping that I used for up here and put that along the side just to make up for the difference with the top and the bottom. Maybe use a few maybe small screws or so to screw that into the top, and then to make it stick here down to the bottom as well, maybe put in some screws. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see on that. But it is kind of coming together here. Once again, this thing was just a project piece, so being able to eventually use this stick and you know, play some games on it, it's going to be great. It's already got some scratches all over it. But it'll be nice to finally be able to use this on some of my SNK boards that I haven't been able to use, yeah, since I've owned them. So this should work out quite nicely. And everything here, like I'd mentioned before, wired up with the coin in, the start button, and our 3 buttons here. So what I'll do next is I'll try and see about filling in this gap, and this I might worry about that at some other point in time. Just for right now, just try and see if I can get this side all patched up and fill in the gap there. But I'll get on that, and then I'll see you guys here in a little bit. Alright, so here is the final setup here. I've got my controls all wired up for the rotary section, and then for the coin in, start button, and directional, as well as the buttons here into this harness. And you can see down here, it kind of has a plastic piece that I've put around the entire unit. Unfortunately, you know, because it's flexible here, it didn't come out exactly the way that I wanted it to. It can be removed quite easily, so I like that part, but yeah, it didn't stay as flush as what I wanted it to, but nonetheless. I did raise the joystick up just a little bit more, just to give myself a little bit more clearance, because I didn't want it scraping along the bottom, but yeah, you can hear it now. There's no rubbing or anything like that. Got all the buttons here ready to go, and this is something that I've already tested out, so I know it does work. But I haven't tested it out since I put the bottom part on it. So with all the controls, I know that the controls work fine. But this should make it a lot easier. You can set it on your lap now and play them that way. But nonetheless, just want to share with you guys a little bit of an adventure here with this setup. An old joystick that was pretty beat up, kind of going into a new home here, or a new kind of form. So I'll be able to use this with my other SNK games. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching.